Welcome back to Seller Sessions. I am your host today, Sharon Evan, and today I am super excited to have on Christina with me. How are you doing, Christina?
Hi, good. So nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
A long time ago, before I actually joined Seller Sessions, you were supposed to be my first guest. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I'm happy to finally have you here.
Yeah.
So in today's podcast, we're going to speak about social media and why social media is important for Amazon sellers and brand owners in general. But before we get into that, can you give a little intro so people know who you are?
Sure. So I'm actually a former Amazon seller. Up until last summer, I sold on the platform. I pulled my product for a variety of reasons, as we all do. But for the last 3 to 4 years, I've been working in content marketing, primarily with Amazon sellers, helping them drive content and social media management in their Amazon businesses. So that's what I do.
Amazing. When you and I first met, you were selling, basically. You were a brand owner, and I always thought that the fact that like you're actually a brand owner and that you actually have your own brand is what makes you so unique. And because a lot of social media managers or copywriters, etc., and that's fine that they don't actually sell, but they come from a background of that's what they do. But you've actually been in the hot seat, and you know what it's like to go through, actually making your own product, etc., and actually, building a brand, which your brand grew so much also because you did so much social media as well.
Truthfully, my brand really took off because of the social media, I'd say. Content marketing in general was a huge aspect of my business. And yes, I think having the experience as a seller to understand content marketing in terms of selling is a huge asset, especially because it is a little undervalued from the seller perspective. I don't think sellers are totally aware as to how content marketing and social media can really help propel their business forward. It's kind of like the last thing they go to when, in my opinion, it should be something a little bit earlier in their progression of building a brand, really. So, yeah.
Amazing. So that's going to lead me. I prepared, and we spoke a little bit about this before we started, but I prepared a lot of questions for today. We may even split this into 2 different podcasts because I don't think that, I feel like for the last couple of years, Amazon sellers specifically have been exactly that, Amazon sellers. And today, and you've known me for a long time, you know that we both preach brand building and not just Amazon selling. And I think today people are finally getting it, and they're understanding that it's important to build a brand and brand awareness also outside of Amazon. So I'm super excited about this. So we're going to start with at the beginning, which is, in my opinion, why is it so important for a brand to have a social media presence? Because so many Amazon sellers Amazon sellers specifically don't. So why do you think it's so important?
I think we're all realizing that we're at the age of the digital dawn. Everything is online now. This is the way of the future. This is the future. So not promoting your brand on social platform just limits your brand awareness. It limits your reach. It limits your opportunity to build a community, a loyal following, to build authority. So there's so many disadvantages to not taking advantage of social media in today's climate. Like, to me, it just doesn't make sense. It's one of the things that if you're a brand owner, and depending on the product for sure, you should really heavily be weighing when you first start launching a product is, when am I going to start my social media account? Not if, it's when.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people think that they actually have to have a product to start their social media, where when you're even just starting out your whole brand and marketing idea, you can already start your social media then. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. And that's exactly what I did. I actually had, I think, you know, I learned from you, obviously. You were kind of well, no, not kind of, you were my coach. But I started a whole launch series before my product actually went live on Amazon. And one of those things was creating social platforms. So I actually had an Instagram account, I had a Facebook account, I had a Pinterest account. I had all of these accounts that I was creating content on probably about 3 months before I actually launched on Amazon. So yes, I think that that's extremely valuable.
I love that. Is it right though for all brands? Because we spoke about this a little bit before, and I was like, you know, I don't know if it's really right for a toe fungus, you know, treatment brand to necessarily be. I mean, it's not that it's not right. It probably is. You would probably find a way to make it, you know, sexier than how disgusting it really is. But the point is social media right for every brand, or is it product or brand specific or dependent? Like how does a brand owner know whether like Instagram or TikTok, and of course the right platform also makes sense, but is it right for every brand? This is a common
question for Amazon sellers, because often as sellers, we sometimes, I guess a couple of years ago, it was more common for sellers to start just selling products. They weren't really thinking about this whole brand building thing, which I was probably a little guilty of too. So my response is that content marketing is great for any business. It doesn't matter what the product is. It doesn't matter what the service is. Content marketing is everything. Do I think that, for example, a toe fungus business could do well on a platform like Instagram? Maybe. But it really depends on the audience and the insights to develop the right kind of content for that audience. So it really, really depends. I can't say 100% yes or 100% no. I think it also, if it's not Instagram, maybe it's a different channel. Maybe it's kind of a fun, lighthearted TikTok channel, you know, or maybe it's an educational blog where they're putting out really great, high informative information for a specific type of audience who's looking to solve a specific problem. So it might just be about the channel, really. But I think content marketing is valuable for any business, and social media is a part of content marketing.
So you just said something which was, you know, also going to be one of my questions is, and I agree with you. I do think that every single brand should have some sort of, I call it social media presence. Mm-hmm. The question is, what is the right platform for, because there are certain products, or let's talk brands, because you know me, I believe in brand building and not product selling. So there are certain brands where their typical buyer avatars or their people are more on Instagram, and there's ones where it's more TikTok, and there's ones where it should be Reddit, and there's ones where it's YouTube or whatever it may be. So how can a brand owner know where the right social media platform is for their brand?
I think to start really engaging in some social listening and to really spend a lot of time understanding your audience before anything else. I know we hear a lot about this in the Amazon community and from coaches and gurus and the whole gamut of saying like create a buyer avatar, but it's like create a very specific buyer avatar and then go to the places that your buyer avatar is spending time in to understand what kind of content they're absorbing, what kind of channel they prefer. Maybe you have, you know, an older demographic that isn't on Instagram as much. I'm not saying that's the case, but you need to figure out where your audience is spending time, and then you need to replicate that community across the appropriate channel. So yeah, that's.
So I'm a big believer of understanding, you know, where the buyer avatars hang out. Would you say that a good place to start then, because let's just say that I'm building a brand for gardening. Okay, that was the first thing that came to my mind. I have no idea why. And I am not a gardener, and I don't really know anything about gardening. So would you say that then one of the things that I would do if I wanted to be like, okay, I want to make sure I have a social media presence. So would I then go into Instagram and look for hashtags, into TikTok? Like, how would I then know where my buyer, like, what does the process of knowing where they hang out? is?
So
Like, what is that
truth
process?
is, for any kind of content marketing process, it's actually built in strategy. And part of that strategy is market research. Just like when you go to create your product for Amazon, you're doing product research, market research. It's basically the same. It's market research to understand where the audience is at. So you might actually start by researching your competitors and researching some of their online content. You might go to Instagram and you might research hashtags to pull up popular accounts. So market research is really going to dictate where your audience is, and then you're going to follow the trail.
Follow the trail. Yeah. So when it comes to creating, let's just say, let's focus as an example on Instagram or TikTok, but let's focus on Instagram as an example. When it comes to creating physical, so I, for example, am both a brand owner and I am also a personal brand owner, right? You know, I've got my Sharon Evan and then I've got my own brands. The type of content that is made for that is different, right? Because selling physical products, the biggest problem I see with the type of people that I work with is that when it comes to physical product, social media accounts, Amazon sellers specifically think that what that entails is just putting your image of your product in different angles or whatever it may be. So what type of content should people be thinking about or making when it comes to physical product, and how important also, for example, is user-generated content as well, which I think a lot of Amazon sellers lack. This, I'm sure, will lead to many answers. So I'd love to hear what you have to say. I think
what you just described is what I call the slapstick approach to content in general, where we commonly see just a photo, and Amazon agencies are also guilty of this. They'll just put up something and talk about anything in that post without really any rhyme or reason. But just like in blogging or other elements of content marketing, an effective social media content has a strategy behind it. So yes, you can go viral across any channel right now for very little, but to keep that audience interested, you'll need a strategy to develop the best content. So what a strategy looks like is obviously, like we talked about, market research, understanding who your audience is in a very specific manner. I'm not talking about like just generalities. I'm talking about really, you know, the demographics, down to their hobbies and their lifestyle, things like that. And then we actually start creating content in different pillars. And I talk about this a lot across social channels. We do this in blogging and we do this in social media content. It works for pretty much everything. So you'll develop your core pillars, the foundation of your content creation, and then you'll have topic pillars within those pillars. So in a general sense, this is just a general example. There's many different types of pillars, but I like to classify content for social media in education, entertainment, promotion, and why is the last one blanking on me? Inspiration. Sorry, it's like my favorite pillar too. So those are kind of the primary foundations for creating content. And then you start looking at the audience and the market research and your competitors to understand what type of content within those pillars your audience wants to see. A really important note about these pillars, yes, we talk about promotional content, but people are tired of promotional content. So you have to understand how to navigate promotional content where it's selling, but it doesn't sound like selling. It's promotion, but without really heavy promoting. And we actually don't use these posts frequently across a 30-day span. It's kind of one of the pillars that we use less often, because if we're providing value to the audience, that is natural promotion. So that's kind of how I go about structuring content. But like I said, for different businesses, I'll have different topic pillars within those pillars. So if you're a beauty brand, like I was, in my hairstyle, in my hair brand, I would have education as a pillar. And within that, I would talk about how my product could benefit their hair, educational content under that pillar, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's how you develop better content than just like an image getting thrown up there.
I love the fact that you call it pillars and then like little like pillars within those pillars. I usually would call it like I would call it like I build a theme. So let's just say, but no, a pillar is a much better word for it. I'm gonna take that word from you from now on. So for example, I would say, okay, so I build a theme, and then for, you know, on maybe a specific day it could be education, and another day it could be like some sort of lifestyle image with the product in it, but not a product image. Another day it could be a funny quote that's somehow related to, like, that's what we mean when we're talking about pillars, right?
Right. Not so much a theme. The purpose of pillars in this sense is to keep content interesting and keep the audience engaged. Because if you're just putting up general theme content, you might not get much engagement from that. So the whole goal is about engagement, drawing more people into this social circle. And these different pillars are how to do that, because it's not only providing value, but it might provide the motivation. For example, say someone's having a really bad hair day and I post a funny meme or something, just when they needed to see it, it might encourage them to come back and follow for more. So although these pillars might sound, I guess maybe not as crucial, they really are. They're everything to creating really great content. That's how most social media managers will navigate a variety of different content to the audience.
What we're saying is, what you're saying is, if you're an Amazon seller, or you sell let's stick to Amazon sellers, because that's primarily who will watch this or listen to this. If you're an Amazon seller, and you could even be a 7-figure seller, you could be a freaking 8-figure seller, it doesn't matter. And you don't have a social media presence whatsoever, and tomorrow you want to start a social media presence, and let's just say you initially wanted to start it on your own, or you were to hire a social media manager like yourself, the strategy of just putting up the type of photos that you put in a listing is not what you do on Instagram or whatever it may be. And then building the strategy, which is something you talk about a lot, it's about having that strategy, and part of that is then picking the right types of pillars for whatever your brand is. And then you would incorporate, I'm summarizing what you just said, and then incorporating the promotional side of it once in a while. But it's not about the biggest mistake I find that Amazon sellers are making is it's not about the conversion as much as it is about brand awareness and having social media presence.
They come in, unfortunately, thinking that social media is going to, the sole purpose of social media is about conversion. And like all of our marketing efforts to an extent are about conversion. But the truth is, I don't actually onboard a client if they come to me and they say, I want to hit, a 7x multiple, or I want to see a 20% increase in conversion. That's not really what the total effort of social media is for. It's about many things: growing your reach, building your community, but also you have to think of it as a part of your marketing effort. So I like to compare it to the Amazon listing, because I also write listings. And as a copywriter, when an agency or a seller comes to me and they say, I want to test the copy in your listing, I say, how are the images looking? What is the rest of the listing looking like? Because you can't just test one component without the other. So for social media, it's the same thing. If your overall marketing effort doesn't really make sense, then you might not see the results. It's a part of your overall marketing strategy. It's its own machine, but it's part of the bigger picture of your marketing efforts.
It's also, credibility, authority, that you're not just an Amazon brand, you're an actual brand.
True. That is a huge pain point for sellers in particular. And I was guilty of that too. Before we started, we were talking about how some sellers put the direct link to their Amazon listing in their social media. I don't recommend doing that now. And the reason is because you do look spammy. You don't look like an authority. You look like you're immediately trying to sell something. So there's ways to make yourself an authority without shoving your sale in someone's face 24/7. And that's typically by providing high value, high educational content.
It's also, like we just said, it's not the goal when it comes to building. Like social media it's about everything that you just explained. It's about the authority. It's about the community. It's about the education. It's about the fact of like making them like a fan of your brand, where, you know, when you do once in a while put a post of coming soon or just launched or whatever, or just not your product on your own, but you get what I mean. You've already sucked them in a long time ago because of all this other value that you gave them. Or like you gave a great example of like, if you're having a bad hair day and, you know, you just put up a funny, that's a great example as well.
You built trust too with that community. Like in the climate that we're in nowadays, people do want to feel connection, even if it's to a brand. They feel a personal connection. That's often why they're purchasing is more emotionally than it is. It's to solve a problem, but why they're choosing you over everyone else is usually because they feel some type of pull to that brand. And that's really what social media is all about. And that community, if you've done it well, will follow you wherever you go. And so that's like the ultimate goal, right? Conversion is just like a small piece of it, really. Yeah.
And then it's also easier to also then later launch other products to those people that are already following you as well, and to resell. And because the whole thing that I believe in, and this is the way I do it, it's not the only way, but the whole thing that I believe in when it comes to building a brand is I like to build a brand around a specific buyer avatar where I can sell to them different products over and over and over again. And the thing about, and it's not the only way, but I'm saying the thing about also with social media, when you do have a social media following, you do have a social media presence, it's when you then, well, you may have already purchased from me this one product, but now that, you know, I'm launching this other product, let me also start making a little bit more stuff that makes sense for this product as well. And, you know, and they'll most probably, because they've already built that trust with you.
Have a following base. Exactly. Yeah. No,
so you totally you gave an example of something that we spoke about before this, and I am a big believer in. So when it comes to the link that people put in their bio on an example on social media, on Instagram, a lot of people I see make the mistake of putting in, like you just mentioned earlier, like putting in their Amazon, like full Amazon listing link, like not even using Bitly or like just shortening it, like a full Amazon listing link. I personally, and you've known me for a long time and you know that this is how I work, I personally don't send outside traffic to Amazon. I send them to my websites. And I believe that, you know, if you should be building a brand and you should have your own website. I personally believe in sending them to my website because I prefer to own the buyers and not Amazon. But if you don't do that, what should the links in the bio be sending you? Yeah. What should they look like? And where should we be sending people that follow us?
Right. Well, let's talk quickly about what a bio actually entails on specific platforms. Most of these platforms are actually SEO driven. So there should actually be keywords. There should be some type of USP statement in the bio. If I see an Amazon seller and they just have, we sell X product, that's just not cutting it. You need to tell people how you help them, what you offer, and how you're unique. So that's kind of just like a very brief explanation of the bio. For the link in bio, you have a couple different options. I'm with you. I like to put a website there, but I also understand that not every seller actually launches with a website. So I prefer to use a link in bio. And I know the standard one that people commonly speak of is called link in bio. I don't like that one. I like something called Beacons AI. It's totally free. You can purchase their paid, I guess, option. I just use the free one. It's completely customizable. You can put your entire branding. So when we talk about brand building, we also talk about carrying a brand theme across channel, not just from Amazon, but to your social channels, to your website. And you can do this in this link in bio. And so that link in bio will have different links. It'll have, a link to your website, then it might have a link to a special offer, maybe a free download. And these links all come with analytics. So every month you get a rundown of how many clicks you received, who is clicking on what. And so it just provides more information. And you also start building a little bit more credibility with your audience, as opposed to putting this like long Amazon listing link in there,
Yeah.
So Beacons AI is the one that I love.
I'm actually bringing up your bio and I want to show it because you have an amazing one. And it would be, so anyone that is listening to this on the podcast, I would encourage you to find the video of this if you don't really know what it is that we're speaking about. Now, this is obviously your new Instagram, but let me just really quickly share.
Can I also just touch on perhaps, oh yes, this is the link. This is great.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So you basically have in your new Instagram, because you had an issue with your old one. So in your new Instagram, this is what we're talking about. So we're looking at your Instagram account. We can see here you this is the name of your Instagram, Christina Copywriting. Yep. And then we've got here, so explain what we should, sure. You didn't know I was going to do this, and I just decided to do it now, because I think it's a great example. So what should be here at this part at the top, and what do you call this?
Let's just start with the name, actually, Christina in Copywriting. The reason that I have copywriting in there, yes, that's a component of my business, but that's a keyword. So this Instagram is a search engine, so you need to be placing keywords. So content strategy and social media management are what I do, not my name. And the reason those are in there are, again, because they're keywords. So if I was a beauty brand, like I was formerly, I sold a hot air brush. So I might say something like, you know, brush beauty, hair styling and drying tools for women, something that indicates how I help people, but also is a keyword. So that kind of explains the name. And then this is what I call the USP statement. I know that you can also do, I've seen, and I've done this myself, where you list out kind of bullets of the bio. That's totally fine too, as long as you address who you are, who you help, and how you help people uniquely. So that's basically a USP statement, which is a unique selling proposition. So that's what I've done there. And I've also put in some keywords, because I help Amazon brands, Amazon FBA, that's a common keyword that's searched for on platforms like Instagram. And then content strategy is also a keyword. And then there's the link in bio. Obviously, I always have a call to action, which is you can get a free strategy call from me, and then the link in bio. And this is the link in bio that I just swear by. It's been out for a couple of years now. I actually found it on TikTok just at the peak of COVID. So this is completely customizable. You can change the image in the background. You can change all of the colors, all of the links. This isn't even really that creative. Some of the Beacons AI design that I've seen actually gets pretty intricate. It's pretty amazing what you can do. And then this is where we start to see all the different links. So the website.
So when you were, sorry that I'm quickly, when you were saying the link, when you were saying link in bio, this is what you were talking about, right? Where like there's a link in the bio, you click on it, and then from there, you're going to have different other links. I don't know what you would call them. Links that would send you to whatever it is that I'm trying to send you to, right? And that's what you were about to explain.
The link in bio, you could just put your website link there if you wanted, but you know, it's commonplace nowadays where we have multiple channels that we want to drive traffic to. If the primary goal is conversion, yes, then just put the website link. But if you want to drive traffic to your Pinterest, or if you have a great free download, this is an ulterior to just putting the Amazon listing link. You know,
let's use an example of let's say that I sell different types of kitchen gadgets. Okay, let's just say that that's my brand. It's a kitchen gadget brand. So for example, a good thing could be where I could have, for example, free recipes, right? As an example here. Or I could have another example to blogs for different, you know, for a different thing. And then obviously link to my website, or, you know, my website. And then another one could also be buy on Amazon for the people that prefer to buy on Amazon, for example. And then the other social media platforms that's what you mean, right?
Absolutely. Multiple links so that people can come to your link in bio and get everything they need in one place. They can get a free download. They can go to your website. They can check out if you have a Facebook community, a Facebook page. Everything is in the link in bio. It's easy to access, and you know, it calls attention to the right places. So, and you can still, like you said, you can still put your Amazon link there if you want it underneath your website. I don't know if I would do that, but it's still an option.
And the reason I wanted us to talk about this because I've seen social media accounts from different Amazon sellers that are transitioning to understand that we're building a brand, we're not just selling a product. And then I'd look at their social media and I'd be like, you know, they don't even have anything in there. They've just got a link. That's it. They've got nothing else in there.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, at least you actually introduced me to Beacons. I didn't know about it. I use Bitly. No, on Instagram, I use, I've just forgotten. Linktree.
Probably link in bio or Linktree. Yeah.
No, Linktree.
Yeah.
So for Instagram, I use Linktree, and then which is similar to Beacons, more or less. But I was like, well, at least make a Bitly link where you can follow, like you can see some analytics as well. True. If you're not going to use something, you know, something like that, and also use something that at least shortens it rather than having this really long Amazon listing.
Yeah, and
but
I think that's important. An experience, you know, sellers, when we first start selling, I totally understand that anxiety and stress of becoming a new seller on Amazon. And, you know, there is a tendency still to think you're just selling a product. When you start really wrapping your head around the fact that, you know, in this day and age and in today's climate, growing a brand off of Amazon is extremely valuable and important to the longevity of your brand, then you start realizing that, you know, maybe just a link in there to my Amazon listing isn't as productive as a link to my website or a link in bio, basically. Yeah.
Let's talk about something that I just thought of right now, which is an important subject. So let's say that I have an Instagram account and I have a TikTok account and I have Facebook for my brand, and I may even have a YouTube channel because, you know, I want to be everywhere. That makes sense for my buyer avatar. Let's talk a little bit about repurposing content for the well, I would use the word optimizing. You'll probably use a better word than me for that, but optimizing it for the right platform. So taking something that I've posted on Instagram, for example, and repurposing it for other platforms.
Right. So when we start talking about actually creating the actual content, like I said, we create content in pillars, we do market research, but we also are, we're taking a blog or video first approach. Sorry, I was losing my train of thought there. We're trying to develop the bigger picture of content so that it's easier to repurpose. So for example, if I write a pillar post, say a 3,000 word article, which I actually did write about Amazon listing creation, I would then take that 3,000 word article and I would pull a couple quotes from that article and I'd make some inspirational content. Then I would pull some educational, some really meaty content from that one post, and I would post that on LinkedIn. So taking a blog or video first approach will really help streamline the repurposing of your content. It makes it so much easier and a lot faster. But you should be able to repurpose your pillar pieces of content, like your education, across channel, and reuse it. Obviously, that's the whole point. Yeah.
So let's talk for the people who let's just say initially want to start their own social media account on their own. You know, they don't have they either don't have the money to hire, or, you know, they're just starting out and they want to start on their own initially. We were speaking about this earlier, and I told you how I would purchase different types of like Canva templates, where I would then go in and change those Canva templates, and it can be time consuming, but it's a great start for someone who, you know, isn't yet at the place where they can hire someone like you. There's different types of Canva templates with different themes, or they have different themes and then different pillars within them that can also help brand owners to build, you know, their initial plan. What do you think about that?
So I talk about template content quite a bit on my social platforms. And for someone just starting out who maybe can't afford the full gamut of social media management, I think templates are a great option. But something that you need to keep in mind is that you don't want to keep the
Copy
copy exactly the same, because some of this content can be copywritten, and there's only so many seats allowed when you purchase for, you know, publicizing this content. So make sure that you're always adjusting it to your branding and your brand theme. And I think we talked about this earlier, how you carry your brand messaging from one platform across the other. So from your website to your Amazon listing to your social platforms. And the same thing with these templates. You want to be altering the fonts to match your proper brand guide, and then the messaging within those templates. I love templates. I think that they're a great option. I have purchased them even for my own content to create what's called carousel posts, but I changed the content inside of the graphic to reflect what I need it to reflect. But for the graphic purpose, I think they're great, and they're time consuming. They're really cost effective. And for someone just starting social media who might be overwhelmed, I think they're a great option.
Okay. And now let's talk about some, you know, okay, so they did that on their own initially, and now they're ready to hire, for example, a social media manager. A lot of people don't know what a social media manager actually does. So
Right.
what does a social media manager do when it comes to, you know, actually managing your account?
So I think this is a great question, especially for Amazon sellers watching who are maybe more used to just thinking it's just about getting a picture up there. So full social media management incorporates obviously understanding your audience, creating the best type of content for that audience, growing this larger sense of community, driving traffic certain places. But a big component of operating in social media management is understanding the insights and the analytics in these accounts. Without understanding the insights and analytics, we can't know who your audience is, and also what type of content they're looking for. The insights are the answers to the social footprint, basically. So social media management is not only creating the graphics, it's not only creating compelling captions, it's doing hashtag research. Yes, hashtags are still relevant in 2022. And it's creating cross-channel content for other different, you know, multiple platforms, as well as ongoing reviewing of these insights and analytics. So for example, if I have a new account, I'll onboard them, I'll review roughly a 30-day span of their content, maybe even per post. And then in another 2 weeks, I'll review their insights again to gather more data to figure out if I need to change the content that I've created, to figure out what posts are doing really well, what posts aren't doing well, and to adjust the strategy. So just like in Amazon listing creation or Amazon in general, we say that, you know, the content in Amazon listings are not set it and forget it. It's the same thing with a social media strategy. You know, to really create the best content, you have to be performing these ongoing analytics of the insights so that you know what is really performing well and what isn't. So that's kind of the full scope of social media management. It's not just, I think it's common to think that it's just creating a picture, but it's really so much more than that.
Yeah. What about I don't know if all social media managers do this or not. I know that you do, but when it comes to the engagement with the with the followers, do social media managers, typical social media managers, also do the engagement, meaning learn how the brand speaks, or how, you know what I mean, like the brand personality, and then answer every single person that's made a comment? And then if you get DMs, is that something that, you know, social media? I mean, I know the answer, but I'd like you to answer it.
Yeah. Full social media management includes what we call organic growth strategies, as well as DM management. So we're managing the messages that are coming in, as well as engagement building. So we're looking at other accounts for similar following bases, and we're trying to target and grow your community based on those accounts. So there's a lot more than just even creating the caption. You know, outside of the whole post, there's a whole form of management that goes on behind the scenes. And part of that is communicating your brand messaging across the channel that we're working on. So if that's Instagram, it's making sure that the brand message and the brand tone in the caption is relevant. And then also if someone comments, I'm replying back to that comment in a timely manner, but on brand as well. And every brand that I work with has a different brand theme, right? So I'm not going to reply the same way that I would with one Amazon agency versus a beauty brand. You know, it's going to be a very different type of response. So yes, that's part of social media management.
So understanding like the brand personality and the way the brand actually speaks and their tone and et cetera is important and part of like the onboarding that a social media manager would do.
So the first few days of onboarding with a client, I know in remote work, clients can tend to think, you know, if they don't hear from me, that's a bad sign. Clients will always have direct access to me. That's never an issue. But what I'm doing in the first roughly 5 to 7 days of onboarding and getting your account access is I'm looking through all of your insights. So I'm logging into your accounts, I'm reviewing the reach, the impressions, I'm reviewing specific posts so that I can also understand what type of content and who we're directing that content to. But a part of that market research is also understanding your branding. So I'm going to your website, I'm trying to understand your brand messaging, your brand tone, so that when I am replying, eventually when I get to the content aspect and the management aspect, that I'm replying on brand. There should be no difference between you, the CEO, responding to someone because you know your brand best, and the social media manager that you hire. If anything, the social media manager should reply better, in my opinion, because that's what they're trained to do. They're trained to really absorb who you are as a brand and what your message is across channels.
Something that I get asked a lot from clients is, how am I supposed to, like, what kind of content does a social media manager then make? And, you know, because you need something to work with. You need to either have photos of the product or people using the product or whatever it may be. So how do you usually work with, so for example, what I would do with my social media manager would be have a Google Drive where I would upload regularly many like different images and user generated content that we have, etc. Into there, and then I don't tell them what to do with it. They just use it and they build, you know, they incorporate it into. So how does that work usually?
So I work in a platform called Airtable, and everything is housed in Airtable. Everything from the contract to, I actually create a formal PDF strategy. It's multiple pages long, a welcome package, as well as the content pillars, example pieces of content. Everything is in this Airtable. So
like, how do you, as in like, do you need me to upload images? Do you need me to?
Yes. So this is the thing too, is that we talk a lot in Amazon about how Amazon sellers, and I had to learn this when I started selling, that we're the drivers of our own businesses. Like, obviously we know that we're the ones driving our business forward, but social media management doesn't mean that you just walk away, that you hand your social media manager, you know, a couple quick sentences and then they create this magical content and you go viral. It actually means that you participate in your own content planning. And you're not doing my work, but in this Airtable that I'm talking about, there is a Google Drive link or a Dropbox link, and you're putting the content that you have into this link. And there's also a very detailed brief that clients, when they onboard with me, this brief is mandatory. It's a little bit lengthy. And after this brief, we actually meet on an hour-long, what I call launch call, and we go over everything in the brief. And so, yes, I need access to a Dropbox and your own user-generated content. If you absolutely can't do that and you don't have any content, I provide 3 or 4 examples of the type of graphic that I can create without you producing anything. And we determine if that's going to work to move forward. But another option is that some clients can send their products to me. I'm not a professional photographer, but I know social media. And so I can snap a few photos and we can get, you know, something to work with. But having some sense of content in the beginning is helpful, obviously. Even if it's just your product photography, at least it's something to work with.
Some brands that are already well-established brands may do once every couple of months, like a photo shoot in a location that, for example, let's just use your hair brand as an example. So If I have a hair brand, I may be at a location which is a house where we're taking images specifically in the bedroom, but also in the bathroom and also in the kitchen. And we'll take, and let's just say there's 3 or 4 different models, and they're using multiple products of ours. And we could get like 500 images just from that, that you would then have in that drive, whatever it is that you said that you use. Yeah. And then from there, you have heaps to work with, and you can just, use whatever it is that you need. I know that for, whether you have a VA or social media manager that does this for you, like it's crucial to have something along those lines.
It's much more productive and helpful to have some foundation of some kind of imagery to work with. That's where I see Amazon sellers struggle the most also with social media management, is they just slap up like a generic listing image. I think we talked about this earlier, and like that's not going to work on social platforms. So even if you can invest in, whether it's a ring light, or you can buy these like product photography things off of Amazon now and take a couple photos yourself until you can afford to do, product photography or shoots like you just described, giving your social media manager some type of content in terms of images is only to your advantage. It really is.
Another thing is as well that I believe in when it comes specifically to something like Instagram specifically, is in many, many scenarios, what would look like, it could even be like, I've done this with my mom, for example. So in one of our anti-aging brands, I've taken my mom as if she's like, a buyer, and like taking a photo, like, let's just pretend that this is the packaging, like taking a photo as if like they're explaining what it is, when really it's just my mom holding, our packaging. And then, so what I'm saying is user generated content, and of course you need to have permission to use that, but user generated content, or what looks like user generated content, is something that is sometimes even better than professional photography. Do you agree with that?
I agree. Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought this up, because user generated content is becoming more talked about. You can go on TikTok and search this topic. There's a lot of information, and also you can purchase user generated content. So if you don't have the means to do product photography or things like that, you can purchase, for example, someone like me to hold your product, or to be out in just a lifestyle setting and to use your product, and you have rights to that content. This is extremely valuable, because in the Amazon community, and commonly for Amazon sellers, we talk about influencing and we promote working with influencers. And the reality is that some of these influencers are very expensive, and to hire some of these agencies to navigate influencing can cost a brand upwards of $10,000 to $20,000. So it's not cheap. The results are there, but it's not cheap. So user generated content is something everyone has access to. You could even go ask one of your friends in your network to create user generated content for you, and they might do it for free. So user generated content is huge. It's affordable. If you're looking for it, you can go to TikTok and search user generated content. You might even find someone that you can buy it from. I know that people are selling individual, photos, and then videos, reels, even anything. So great conversation about user generated content.
I just had a question that I felt was really important to ask, as like a piggybacking of this one, and I can't remember what it is. So I'll move on to something else I want to speak about, which is, I remember what it was, and it was working with influencers. I remember what it was. So when it comes to social media management, influencers, do social media managers also, part of like the strategy, reach out to influencers?
Yes, they can. I've seen this done in a couple different ways. I've seen Amazon sellers source, I guess, their social media management managers, and then hire people to source influencers. I really think the social media manager can do both. If it depends on their contract. Maybe for some people it's not included, but it commonly is. They also have hopefully spent the time to learn your brand and your brand messaging, your tone of conversation. And so they should know how to reach out to people appropriately. Now, what that looks like in terms of how many people and things, those are things you'd have to work out with your social media manager before you sign a contract, basically. So, yeah.
I just remembered as you were speaking about how I've just forgotten what the brand was, but recently I I clicked follow on it was a magnetic eyelashes brand.
Yeah.
So I clicked follow on them, and within probably like, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes, I received a DM. Hey, I can't remember what it was, but it was something like, what, thanks for following us, blah, blah, blah. It was super, super like fun and professional type of DM. And they basically straight away, offered me, I can't remember what it was. It was something like a percentage off if I was to purchase within like the next whatever period of time that it was. And I remember thinking, and I was like, hey, this is really smart. I don't do that, for example. And I was like, this is really smart, because she wasn't annoying. I was speaking to a real person, because it was like back and forth conversation as well. I mean,
that they have are, very effective, and they know how to make it seem like you're talking to a person, which is great. But I commonly do suggest for more personal brands, if I'm working with, for example, someone working in personal development, that immediately once they gain a follower, to send that person, like you just explained, a thank you message, welcome them into your community, because that really does stand out. Not everyone is doing that. I mean, yeah, there is a lot of spam on social platforms, which we all hate, but when it comes across authentic, I think people really do appreciate it.
It was the first time I think I've ever received a message when following a physical product brand. Like I'd never received a message like that. And I was like, this is so smart. I need to make sure that, we start doing something like this. So let's talk a little bit about KPIs when it comes to social media management, or having a social media manager.
So there's actually a whole slew of metrics. And I think, we maybe kind of like skim over this because we don't really know what they're all about. And sometimes when we're overwhelmed with data, we just tend to like ignore it. But in your Instagram account, for example, if you pull up your business account, you'll see to the far right, it says Insights. You click on that button and a whole slew of metrics opens up. So it's not only talking about how many followers you have, but it's talking about your account reach. It's talking about the post impressions, the impressions from hashtags. I won't detail the number of insights and analytics that are offered in this section, but this is just extremely valuable to any social media manager so that we can understand, for example, maybe you have a viral post. Like, let's look at that post and figure out why that post went viral. Was it the time of day? Was it the caption? Was it, something that you were, maybe the person in the content was doing? What was so great about this content? And let's try to replicate that going forward. So there's a whole slew of metrics in the insight section. I encourage everyone who's watching this to go take a look at your insights. Across every platform, LinkedIn has insights, Twitter has insights, all of these channels have insights. So start paying attention to your insights. That's my message.
Amazing. And I can't remember, I think we did briefly talk about this, and I'd love to sort of, finish with this. My biggest problem that I've seen when it comes to expectations of specifically, and the reason I'm picking here on Amazon sellers specifically is because a brand owner first, the type of people that get into physical products when it comes to, they're from day one thinking about brand building rather than selling a product. Brand owners first understand that when you're using social media, it's not just about conversion. It's about brand awareness. It's about many, many things, which we just spoke about. So we did speak about the fact that authority and things like that, but I'd love for us to also finish on this because I think it's one of the most important things. I've had people, say, hey, I just hired, for example, a social media manager, or I've got someone doing my social media, or, hey, Sharon, I'm spending so much time putting time into my own Instagram, but I'm just not getting any conversions. And of course there could be many reasons why, but I always say, are you getting followers? Are people following you? Are you getting engagement? It's not just about the conversion. It's what we spoke about. So even though we did speak about authority and being looking like an authentic brand, etc. Like, I feel like this is a great thing to finish on with it when it comes to expectations of conversions, for example.
So I think we touched on this earlier about your overall marketing strategy. So when you look at a social media strategy, you look at what are the overall marketing goals for your company. And then underneath that, you look at what are the actual tangible social media goals. The social media goals, of course, like conversion is a piece of that, but the bigger picture is just like you said, growing reach, building community, growing authority, all of those things encompass pretty well the majority of the goals for your social media account. And these are actually measurable. These aren't just things that we just talk about. They're all measurable based on your insights. So when clients come to me and they say, I would like to see, a 20% conversion on whatever, as I said earlier, that's where I take great pause and say, I'm never going to guarantee conversion, because the whole purpose of your social media is far more than just one sale. We're looking to build loyalty with your clients. We're looking to build community. We're looking to build brand awareness across different channels. So it's something really important to keep in mind. You're totally right, is having, realistic expectations about the purpose of your social media platforms that you're trying to leverage.
Amazing. There's many other things, but I don't want this one to be too long. So we'll have to have you back another time. Okay. But I think that anyone who is who has a physical product brand and doesn't have some sort of social media awareness, I hope that today's podcast helped you in some way to understand why having a social media presence is so important. Even if you're, we should actually finish on this. What about the people that have a one product brand? Because I believe that even they need to have, a social media presence. So
that's what I had. I had a one product brand. I strategically involved myself in multiple channels, from Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, TikTok even. And that is exactly how my brand took off. I think I hit like 6 figures in under 7 months. Of course, that's just revenue. But now is the time. If you have a single product, it doesn't matter. You have a brand, you have a following, people are buying from you for some type of reason, whether emotionally or logically. So why not help promote that across social channels? And also, it may encourage you to add more to your product line. Maybe your customers will start telling you what they want to see from you, and you'll start thinking like, okay, maybe it's time to add something else to my product line. So now's the time. Jump on social media.
Amazing. All right, Christina, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on today. And second of all, if anyone wants to reach out to you, where can they contact you?
hello@christinainc.com. That's my email. Or of course, you can find me on Instagram or Facebook. I'm very active on these channels. And I have a different handle. It's Christina Inc. Copywriting for Instagram. But that's how you can find me.
Thank you so much for coming on. If anyone wants to find me or reach out to me, they can find my YouTube channel, Sharon Evan, and also Sharon Evan on Instagram, Facebook, and my website, www.sharonevan.com. Isabella will be back on Monday. Danny will be back on Tuesday. And Christina, thank you so much for coming on again.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be
Bye,
here.
Everyone. Thank you.